I was in the hospital setting, it's just like, you know, you see everybody that's already sick, already broken, you know, and we're trying to then apply that traditional model of like managing symptoms and never really fixing people. Like the amount of times I'd see that person again, you know, because there was no intervention in between that of like really trying to solve for the root cause. We create healthier communities, and you start by the individual, and then that individual, you know, shares some of that knowledge to somebody, and then, you know, starts to create generational change. I think that there's a lot of bro science, or whatever you want to call it, out there. And so there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the fitness industry, a lot of stuff where it's just like hard to know what to trust. And so if I boiled it down to something of like why we exist, what we really do is we are trying to educate people first and foremost on their own health and what to do with it, right? Like, how do I move myself in the direction of living a healthier life? For longevity or whatever your why is and your reason for wanting to be healthy. And you know, so a sexier way to say it is like, you know, designing an optimal life for you, right? Because there is a mental component to this, you know, community, pieces of that I feel like have been lost through today's age of like living behind screens and being isolated and things like that. My hope for this is that you go through the process and you learned more, you know, in the first 3 months of working with us than you ever did about yourself, and actually educate you on how to do it. And the reason you stick around is because you've now, you know, developed such amazing friendships and community, you know, that you want to do it in the same place with the people that are doing it alongside with you, right? But if you walked away, you had gained something. You know, our first initial phase is like getting to know about you. It's an intake. We start to collect data on you, whether that's through labs or metabolic testing, movement assessments. And each step is just an opportunity for us to educate around the why we're doing this, and starting to move, I like to say, moving people towards the aha moment, where they're just like, you're saying something to them, which maybe they've already been exposed to this, but you say it in a way they're like, oh, I get that. That makes total sense why you would do it that way. And so I'm hoping at each stage it goes to that and it just continues to build. So you go through, collect your data, you start to now interact with what Arsenal is, which, right? What we have here is just the training facility, the clinical side of things, which is more of like your, you know, longevity clinic, your functional medicine doctor, right? And then you have your area for downregulation and recovery with your saunas and, you know, your contrast therapies as well. Like at each of the facilities, we have an in-house physical therapist. But again, it's just a tool along the way to achieve health. Part of this and how I became so fascinated with this world was a background in bodybuilding. I never competed or anything like that, but I was so fascinated with how somebody could manipulate their diet and training technique to change their body composition so drastically. And I was like, oh, that's so, you know, that's interesting. Like, how do you do this for like health reasons, you know, not just purely aesthetic? And that's what kind of like led me down this path in college, actually, to pursue more of the like health sciences. How do we live the biohacking, you know, health optimization lifestyle that like a Tom Brady does, right? You know, I think he's a prime example of someone that's really engineered his life for optimal health. You know, I sat there and I looked and I'm like, well, you know, the only way to do this is to really have it in one house. You know, I think a lot of people see us as a gym. You know, movement is a tool, just like interacting with the clinic is, and recovery and all of these things. They're all just tools depending on, you know, where you're at in life. Like if you're recovering from an injury, that looks a lot different than somebody that's trying to train for optimal performance, or from somebody that needs to lose a lot of weight, right? And fix themselves metabolically. Like these are all, it's scalable up and down for either way, but again, you're still learning why you're doing it, and then it helps drive performance or results, because you're put into real life and you're now understanding while you're doing it, you're not being robotic and trying to like white knuckle yourself through a diet or whatever, because you don't know what you don't know. I want to be able to bring that knowledge to our industry so that whether it's Arsenal or this other gym that follows, you know, what Arsenal is about in every different corner of the world, part of this is the proof of concept. I mean, we have 2 locations now, going on the 3rd, but I feel like this one's really gonna be sort of that like beacon for how this will look in the next 5 to 10 years.